Welcome to the Steve Barkley Ponders Out Loud podcast. As instructional coaches and school leaders, you are tasked with guiding continuous teacher growth to create student success. This podcast looks to support you with strategies from experienced guests, as well as my own insights that I've gathered over the years. I'm thrilled to have you with us. Thanks for tuning in. Coaching teacher leaders. Instructional coaches and school administrators should be continuously mapping out how they support teacher leaders in their schools. Teacher leaders at grade levels or department chairs for curriculum, along with teachers leading programs or projects, and those serving as mentors to new staff, are all key to a school reaching its mission and vision of maximizing student success. Too often, there is no plan for the development of critical leadership skills and mindsets that are necessary for teacher leaders to support continuous teacher growth for a school staff. That lack of planning and process, I believe, also communicates a lack of value for the commitment and risk-taking that teacher leaders assume. Listen to these words from Simon Sinek about the common lack of leadership development. I believe it describes well the need for teaching, supporting, and coaching teacher leadership.
One of the great things that is lacking in most of our companies is that they are not teaching us how to lead. And leadership is a skill like any other. It is a practicable, learnable skill. And it is something that you work on. It's like a muscle. If you practice, you will get good at it and you will become a strong leader. If you stop practicing, you will become a weak leader. Like parenting, everyone has the capacity to be a parent. Doesn't mean everybody wants to be a parent, and doesn't mean everybody should be a parent. Leadership is the same. We all have the capacity to be a leader. Doesn't mean everybody should be a leader, and it doesn't mean everybody wants to be a leader. And the reason is because it comes at great personal sacrifice. Remember, you're not in charge, you're responsible for those in your charge. That means things like when everything goes right, you have to give away all the credit. And when everything goes wrong, you have to take all the responsibility.
I like Sinek's description that we are not in charge, but responsible for those in our charge. I think that is definitely the case for teacher leaders. Here's my phrase that I share concerning school leadership roles. We lead and coach because we believe in the potential of others and ourselves to grow, learn, and positively impact students' lives. I have previously hosted two authors on the podcast who've written about teacher leadership. We'll listen to their descriptions of teachers as leaders, and I want to encourage you to consider what insights you gain concerning how you should be supporting your teacher leaders. First, we'll hear from Dr. Chad Dumas, the author of the Teacher Leader Handbook, Simple Habits to Transform Collaboration in a PLC at Work, as he describes teacher leaders of PLCs and the important mindsets of that leadership work. I asked Chad, what are some of the ways that you define the role of teacher PLC team leaders?
It's not a mini administrator. It's not a spy. It's not someone who just follows orders from a superior to, right? Those are all things that a teacher team leader is not. What the teacher team leader is then, I define it, the role of that teacher team leader is really singularly focused. It's to ensure the effective functioning of the team in getting all students to grade level essential standards identified by the team. So fairly simple in being able to say it, but not simple in execution, or not easy in execution,
Sure.
right? Sure. So And I think that's helpful to let's frame what this role is, because too many times we say, hey, you're a good teacher, you should be the team leader, now go do it and be effective. And we never clarify what is that role. Well, the role is, there you go, to ensure the effectiveness of the team in guaranteeing that all kids get to grade level essential standards. Easier said than done, but if we're clear about that, now we can move forward with the remaining actions, right? And the mindsets and assumptions that go with it.
So let's talk about mindsets first. What kind of mindsets do I have to step into that teacher leader role?
Yeah. So I identify 3 mindsets, and I think it's important. That term mindset gets thrown around a lot, right? Like Carol Dweck kind of popularized that in the lexicon, 15 years ago or so. And since then, people just kind of use that term without necessarily understanding what it is. And so I define it based on some others, or I think it's Mindset Works is the organization, where they say a mindset is attitudes leading to action. So because of that, the 3 mindsets I propose all start with verbs. I wasn't an English teacher. I don't know if they're infinitives or what, but what kind they are. But here's what they are. So there's 3 mindsets, and that is to see in others what they don't yet possibly see in themselves. That's the first mindset, right? And it's an attitude leading to action, to see in others what they don't necessarily yet see in themselves. The second mindset is to be humble with the posture of learning. And then the third one is to spread the contagion of joy.
Wow.
So those are the 3 mindsets. And I mean, the book unpacks those, but there is so many layers to each of those: to see in others what they don't necessarily see in themselves, to be humble with a posture of learning, and to spread the contagion of joy.
Chad, I love it. I love it. I'm thinking about the mindset that administrators need who are engaged in the selection of those teacher leaders. And those certainly are terms I haven't seen in any job description.
Oh, no. Yeah. And it's something that, I have the extreme privilege, as you do, of working with amazing educators pretty much every day of the week, right? And so you get to see those who are more effective and the mindsets that they bring to it, because these do lead to action. It's not just a, ephemeral thing. It's an attitude that actually gets to, you can see this in action. You can see when people are seeing in others what they don't see in themselves. You can see when people are humble with that posture of learning. You can see when they walk into a meeting and joy spreads. I remember Dennis Sparks, a number of years ago, I was in a session with him, and he said, emotions are contagious.
Yeah.
And how true is that? Knowledge is not contagious. I can walk into a room, you can walk into a room, people don't just pick up my knowledge. I don't pick up their knowledge, but they pick up our emotions. And so being intentional with joy, because when we're happy, when we're joyful, we're more effective, right? The hormones in our bloodstream are flowing. The brain is able to fire more optimally. We're connected with each other. And I want to be clear, I'm not advocating for meetings to be Comedy Central, right? This is not what we're talking about. We're talking about a pure, true, authentic joy that comes from being with each other and doing good work.
How do you work to exhibit those mindsets in your leadership? Seeing in others what they don't see in themselves. That really strikes me as an extension of the mindset that we as teachers need to have for our students. I've often described it that as a teacher, I need to be able to see a future that there's not any current data to support. How about his second item, being humble with a posture for learning? For me, that means I'm in a leadership role based less on what I know and more on my desire, openness, and willingness to learn. In other words, being a lead learner. I've suggested that a criteria when interviewing candidates for instructional coaching position is that the candidate who's excited about what they will learn while coaching really tops for me the candidate who's excited to share what they already know. And how about spreading the contagion of joy? If you'd like to explore joy further, consider listening to a podcast I recorded with Dr. George Philhower, superintendent of Eastern Hancock Schools in Indiana. In that district, their strategic plan is based on 4 promises. Dr. Philhower reported to me in the podcast, quote, "Joy is promise number 1 for us. And it's built on the foundation that we believe that school should be a place that people look forward to going to. So we work really hard to make that true. Our other 3 promises are connection, growth, and success. But really for us, the idea of joy comes from, it's not something that we do, it's who we are. We're trying to become a place that people think about, and it reminds them of joyful experiences." End quote. That's a really powerful description of a place where teachers would want to work. And that's a great goal for teacher leaders. You'll find the link to that interview with Dr. Philhower around joy in this podcast lead-in. I also had the opportunity to explore the role of middle leaders in an earlier podcast with Michael Iannani, the author of Hidden in Plain Sight, Realizing the Full Potential of Middle Leaders. I posed this question to Michael: how do you describe the importance of teacher leadership within a school as being critical to the effectiveness of the school? Here's Michael's thinking.
For a teacher leader to be effective, they, number 1, really need to be passionate about wanting to develop others. And in fact, it's not just we can call a teacher leader, even the head of school, the principal, anybody that is really overseeing the responsibilities of others and trying to lead collaboration. They need to respect and understand the fact that they have a job to develop the capacities of others. And that's probably one of the most important thing any leader brings, including your year level leaders, your pastoral leaders, because by developing others, we create an environment that not only that we are growing in, but that our students ultimately benefit from because of that growth that's happening at the teacher's level, that basic unit of organization within a school.
Interesting, because I've always had in my mind that as a teacher, you're supported by having a faculty of strong teachers. So if the degree to which I invest in other staff members, I am in effect investing in myself.
Yeah. And I mean, that's that level of interdependency, because obviously the more we share of ourselves, the more we hope to get back as well. And so when we go out and share our practices with others, and not just our practices in terms of successes, but also the challenges, we welcome feedback that broadens our perspective and in such a way makes us a better teacher. Now, the thing when it comes to teacher leadership, and an area that, you know, I've been quite critical of, I'll be quite honest, like the adaptive schools movement, in the sense that, you know, when I look at Garmston's research and all that, and even his book, he talks about how in many ways, everybody is a leader on a team and everybody needs to hold each other accountable to the norms. And, you know, everything they talk about in that book is great in an ideal situation, but how do you get to there? And that's where I say you need teacher leadership. You need somebody that gets everybody bought in to the purpose that they should be working towards interdependently. You need somebody there to not only demonstrate the norms, such as those 7 norms of collaboration, but somebody that can help others be able to assess their own sort of capabilities towards demonstrating those norms and understanding how they're perceived by others in terms of their communication. So we basically need somebody in and sort of outside of the team, making us more aware of how we work as a team. To expect everybody on a team to do that, I don't think is realistic. And so that's why the teacher leader is so important. And, you know, somebody that I facilitated with a long time ago and still continue to work with, Chris Jansen, and he's in New Zealand. He had this wonderful sort of analogy that a leader is in many ways somebody like, you know, he used this analogy of being on a dance floor, for instance. And the music's playing, we're all dancing, but we can't really see how everybody else is dancing in comparison to us, in relation to us, because we're all there on the dance floor. So you need somebody to get up onto a balcony, looking over that dance floor, so you can kind of really see how things are being coordinated and how people are moving. And that's probably the most critical role that any teacher leader can play, is somebody that really has that oversight, that view from above, that can really bring that perspective to the rest of the members of the team.
I like Michael's concept of leaders providing a view of what is happening. The teacher leader isn't presenting what should be happening, but guiding a conversation of what do we want to have happening. How does that compare to what is happening? And what moves or modifications might we want to consider? Now, that suggests to me that facilitation skills, strong questioning and listening skills are vital for teacher leaders. As we wrap up, I invite you to reflect on how your school is intentionally supporting the growth of teacher leaders. Are you equipping them with the mindsets that Chad Dumas describes? Seeing potential in others, staying humble as learners, and spreading authentic joy. Are you guiding them, as Michael Iannini says, to develop the capacity of others through insight, perspective, and purposeful collaboration? Teacher leadership isn't a title, it's an influence. And that influence grows when we invest in it. Consider this possibility. Share this podcast with your teacher leaders. Ask them for their reflection and response to the ideas that were shared. Ask them to provide you feedback on how you might best support their work. What coaching feedback might your teacher leaders like to receive as their leadership is observed? I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can always reach me at barclaypd.com. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for listening, folks. I'd love to hear what you're pondering. You can find me on Twitter or LinkedIn at Steve Barclay, or send me your questions and find my videos and blogs at barclaypd.com.